The moment my boss said, "I will destroy you," I knew I had to hit record. I didn't blink or flinch. I just held my phone in my lap, screen down, voice memo app quietly running, while she leaned over my desk and spewed the kind of threat you usually only hear in movies. Her breath was hot with fury, her French manicure pointing at my face like a dagger. "If you open your mouth about this," she hissed, "you won't get a job at a juice bar in this town, let alone marketing. Do you understand me, Hannah?" I nodded slowly, my face blank. I wanted her to think I was scared. And for a second, I was. But not for the reasons she thought. Let me back up a bit. My name is Hannah Reed. I'm 35, I live in Los Angeles, and for the past 4 years, I've worked as a senior marketing strategist for a skincare brand called La Miva. You've probably seen our influencer campaigns without realizing it. La Miva built its image on clean beauty and ethical sourcing, but behind the scenes? It was chaos. Trend chasing, last-minute pivots, budget freezes. Still, I loved the work. I loved brainstorming until midnight and watching an idea take flight. For a while, everything felt stable. I had a great team. My name started getting mentioned in rooms I wasn't even in yet. It finally felt like all the years I spent climbing were worth it. Then Victoria showed up. Victoria Lake. If you're picturing someone who drinks collagen water out of a crystal tumbler and calls herself a disruptor, you're not far off. Her resume was a masterclass in buzzwords. Creative growth architect, brand futurist, all that nonsense. She was brought in as our new VP of marketing after some board shakeups. At first, she did what people like her always do, she dazzled everyone. Inspirational quotes in the break room, Monday morning motivation sessions, free matcha shots. But it didn't take long for the glitter to wear off. Budgets started disappearing. Projects were cancelled halfway through. And slowly, Victoria started shifting blame like a pro. She called it realigning priorities. I called it sabotage. Then came the numbers. Victoria started presenting inflated performance reports to the board. Numbers that made no sense. A campaign she claimed increased engagement by 40%. I ran the back-end data. It was closer to 2%. I mentioned it, once, in a one-on-one. She gave me this tight-lipped smile and said, "We don't need to be so literal, Hannah. Marketing is about narrative." Narrative. Right. That's when I started keeping notes. Every time she rewrote a report. Every time she took credit for someone else's work. Every time she subtly threatened or publicly humiliated someone. I documented it. Quietly. Methodically. Then one day, I walked into a conference room early and saw her laptop still connected to the screen. On it was a spreadsheet, our Q3 performance report, with obvious edits. Numbers copied from an old campaign, pasted into the new one. Like no one would notice. I took a picture. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, exactly. More like a slow, sinking sense that I was standing at the edge of something. I sat on the floor in my apartment, wine untouched beside me, and thought about everything I'd built. Every 2 a.m. email. Every vacation I skipped. Every time I bit my tongue instead of calling someone out. Was I really going to risk it all? Was I ready for what would come next? Because here's the truth about being a woman in corporate marketing, you walk a line. You're expected to be likable, but not soft. Assertive, but not aggressive. Speak up, but only when it's convenient. I knew the risks. I'd seen what happened to women who pushed back. They didn't get promoted. They got phased out. Still, something in me was done. Done pretending. Done watching someone like Victoria claw her way upward on the backs of people like me. So the next day, I walked into her office and told her. Calmly. That I knew she was manipulating reports. That she needed to clean it up before the board meeting next week. That's when she said it. I will destroy you. She didn't try to spin it. She didn't even bother with HR-friendly language. Just pure venom. If you say one word, you'll never work in this industry again. You think people care about your little spreadsheets? They care about who they know. And guess who they know, Hannah? She leaned in. You open your mouth, and I will bury you so fast you won't remember what daylight looks like. I pressed stop on the voice memo with my thumb. Quietly. In my lap. And I smiled. Not because it was over. But because it had just begun. I didn't show up to the Monday morning marketing sync. I didn't join the lunch brainstorm for our winter campaign. And when Victoria swept through the hallway in her usual cloud of perfume and praise hunting, she glanced toward my empty desk and didn't ask anyone where I was. She didn't need to. She knew. And she was glad. My absence was exactly what she wanted. That's the part of power plays people forget. The silence isn't an accident. It's a strategy. Make the problem disappear and you don't have to explain it. The first day I stayed home, I told myself I just needed a breather. I brewed a pot of coffee, sat in my kitchen in pajama pants, and stared out the window long enough for the sun to shift across the floor. I didn't open my laptop. I didn't check Slack. I just let the emails pile up. It wasn't hard. People had stopped copying me on things a week ago. The moment Victoria made it clear I was being realigned, my name started vanishing from agendas and updates like it had never been there to begin with. And the funny part was, no one even called to ask if I was okay. Not the junior strategist I trained for 2 years. Not the copywriter who used to call me her work mom. Not even the HR manager who once cried in my office after a reorg. I vanished, and the world didn't even flinch. That part hit harder than I expected. Because I had always believed that if you worked hard, stayed kind, and made yourself useful, people would stand by you. But the truth? The second you're no longer useful, you're replaceable. Or worse, you're a problem. Victoria didn't even have to fire me. She just started deleting me socially, piece by piece. First from meetings, then from emails, then from memory. It worked. People adapted quickly. The next day, I deleted the work apps from my phone. Slack, Outlook, Asana. Gone. I put my company laptop in a drawer and didn't touch it. I opened a blank notebook and just started writing. Not revenge fantasies. Not yet. Just questions. What do I want? What would justice even look like? Is it enough for her to be exposed? Or does she have to lose everything the way she wanted me to? I left the apartment once. Went to the park a few blocks down, sat on a bench near the dog run, and watched people. A woman with a stroller kept circling the path. 2 men in business suits passed me talking about performance bonuses. Their voices felt like echoes from a life I used to live. I watched a teenager teach her little brother to skateboard. I sat there until the sun dropped behind the palm trees and the breeze turned cold. Everything felt far away. Like I'd stepped out of my life and left the door open behind me. That night, I made myself a real dinner for the first time in weeks. Something about chopping vegetables made my thoughts slow down. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just hollow. Like my purpose had been scooped out and dumped somewhere in the back alley behind Lumiva HQ. I played jazz softly in the background and tried to remember what it was like to cook for enjoyment, not just fuel between meetings. By Wednesday, the office had caught on. I got a text from Chloe, the intern who used to shadow me during client calls. It was short. Just, "Hey, are you okay? Victoria said you'd moved on, but it feels weird without you." Victoria said I moved on. I stared at the screen for a long time, then turned the phone face down. Later that afternoon, I saw Victoria had posted a photo on her LinkedIn. smiling in a bright red blazer in front of a whiteboard that said, Q4 Vision, Growth, Grit, Greatness. The caption read, Proud of the incredible team at Lumiva. When you clear space for real leaders, the results speak for themselves. Clear space. My stomach turned. I knew what she was doing. She was writing me out of the narrative. Making it look like I had walked away. Like I had given up. I closed the app, turned off my phone, and stared at the ceiling for a while. I don't know how long. The next morning, my friend Alex, who still worked in finance, sent me a screenshot of an internal Slack message from Victoria to the senior team. It read, Let's all make an effort to realign focus after recent team transitions. Some people resist evolution, but our culture rewards adaptability. Underneath, someone had responded with a clapping emoji. Another with a fire icon. I stared at the image, my fingers tightening on my phone. She was rewriting the script. She wasn't just deleting me. She was reframing me as the problem. The one who couldn't keep up. The one who couldn't handle change. And people were buying it. That same day, I learned that one of our best designers, Lila, had been pulled off a flagship project and reassigned. Victoria claimed it was resource optimization. But I knew Lila. She was outspoken. Honest. And she liked working with me. That evening, I passed by the office building. Not to go in. Just to see it. Lumiva looked like it always had, sleek glass, curated succulents in the windows, inspirational quotes about innovation etched into metal plaques. But standing across the street, something about it looked fake to me now. Like a set piece built to hide something rotten underneath. I watched as a few coworkers came out laughing, holding takeout boxes. I recognized two of them from my old team. Neither of them looked upset. No one looked like they missed me. I stood there for a long time, staring through the glass, watching Victoria glide through the hallway, her hands in motion like she was conducting a symphony of people too scared to ask questions. And I realized something that stopped me cold. She wasn't just climbing over me. She was cementing herself as the voice of truth in my absence. That night, I sent a text to someone I hadn't spoken to in almost a year. Jamie Becker. She used to be our lead data analyst until she was quietly let go 6 months into Victoria's reign. Jamie had been brilliant, methodical, and unflinchingly honest. I remembered how confused she looked packing up her desk. And how I avoided eye contact, afraid of being associated with someone who'd gotten the axe. I carried that guilt into the message. Hey Jamie. It's Hannah. I think I owe you an apology, and maybe a coffee. She called me within 10 minutes. Hannah. Wow. It's been a while. Too long. I should have reached out earlier. Don't worry about it, she said, though her voice had that guarded quality people use when they haven't decided if they forgive you yet. What's going on? I breathed in, then out. You were right. About Victoria. About the numbers. I didn't want to believe it at the time. I was scared of rocking the boat. There was a pause. I get it, she said. She knows how to make people scared. She threatened me last week. Told me she'd destroy me if I opened my mouth. Jamie's voice dropped. Do you have proof? Yeah. I recorded her. I also have a photo of her editing the Q3 spreadsheet. Jesus, Hannah. That's serious. So is what she's doing to the company. And the people in it. Another long silence. What do you need from me? I need someone who can help me trace how long she's been manipulating the data. Someone who understands how the reports used to be handled before she got her hands on them. You want to build a timeline, Jamie said, catching on fast. Receipts. Exactly. I'll help. But we have to be careful. She still has people on the inside. Some of them don't even know they're helping her. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I know. That's why I need to be invisible for now. You already are. She didn't mean it cruelly. Just factually. Let's meet tomorrow, I said. Somewhere quiet. Text me a place and time. After we hung up, I sat in the dark with my phone in my hand. For the first time in a week, I didn't feel hollow. I felt alert. Grounded. A different kind of quiet. Not retreat. Readiness. I opened my notebook and drew a line down the center of the page. One side I labeled before. The other, after. At the top, I wrote, "This is what you tried to erase." It started with a mistake. A tiny one. The kind that shouldn't matter in a company that moves as fast as Lamiva, but for someone watching closely, it was everything. An email meant for Victoria landed in my inbox. Not my work email, which was still technically active but unused. My personal Gmail. No subject line. Just a report attached, labeled in a hurry, campaign perf raw. The sender was an analyst I didn't recognize. Probably new. Probably someone who typed H into the address line and hit enter without thinking. I opened it, expecting spam. What I found made my stomach clench. The numbers didn't match the Q3 results that had been presented to the board just days earlier. I still had a copy of the deck from before I was benched. The engagement rates were off. The ROI was lower. Way lower. We're not talking rounding errors. We're talking double-digit deception. Which meant either someone made a colossal mistake, or someone doctored the final version before it went upstairs. I didn't panic. I didn't celebrate either. I just sat there for a long moment, letting the realization sink in that what I suspected wasn't just true, it was happening right now. Not buried in the past. Not a single unethical moment. An ongoing, active manipulation of data at the executive level. Victoria wasn't just shady. She was strategic. And sloppy. I forwarded the email to Jamie, no subject, no commentary. A few minutes later she called me. "You saw it?" she asked. "Yeah." "Then you know. This changes everything." We met the next morning in a strip mall cafe in Glendale that smelled like burnt espresso and had ceiling fans older than both of us. Jamie wore sunglasses indoors. Not for disguise. Just because she hated being watched. She slid into the booth without greeting, pulled out her tablet, and opened a shared folder we'd been quietly building. "She's not working alone," Jamie said. "No VP has access to edit raw files without someone handing it to them first. Someone inside has to be feeding her the unpolished numbers, knowingly or not." "We need to find out who," I said, even though the answer was already nudging the edge of my thoughts. "Nathan. Junior analyst. The one with the shaky hands and the conscience." He was smart, but naive enough to think integrity still had a place inside a corporate pyramid like Lamiva. Jamie tapped her finger on the table. "If we get him on board, we can plug the timeline. Right now, we have gaps. They don't disprove anything, but they give her wiggle room." I paused. What if he says no? What if he's too scared? Jamie shrugged. "Then we find someone else." "But I think he remembers what she did to you." "Fear has a long memory." I reached out to him that afternoon, through a message on LinkedIn. "Got a minute to talk about reporting practices?" "Off the record." To my surprise, he responded within an hour. "Can you meet somewhere quiet? I'm not sure who's watching anymore." We met in the library downtown. Neutral ground. I found him near the back, pacing between the biographies and the tech startups. He looked thinner than I remembered. Not sick, just like someone who hadn't been breathing deeply in a while. "Am I in trouble?" he asked as soon as we sat. "Not unless you want to be," I said, trying to smile. He rubbed his palms on his jeans. "You're talking about Victoria, right?" About the reports. I nodded slowly. We have evidence. But we need someone to help us stitch the pieces together. I knew something was off. I just didn't know what to do. If you challenge her, she cuts you off. If you go along, you feel like you're complicit. You're not alone in this. He looked up, and for the first time, I saw it, the relief of being believed. Of being invited into the truth. I can't send anything from my work email. But I have folders. Versions. Timestamps. Stuff that got left behind during the last cleanup. If you know what you're looking at, it's damning. I handed him a clean USB drive. Only what's safe. Don't send it. Don't store it. Pull what you can and walk away. He took it with both hands. I don't want her to do to me what she did to you. She already started, I said. You're here. That means she sees you. By the end of the week, we had a chain. Raw data with one set of numbers. Edited reports with another. Emails with discrepancies in tone. Meeting notes where she claimed metrics that never existed. And through it all, a trail of timestamps that built a map of manipulation. But something was bothering me. As I sat in my apartment surrounded by documents and timelines and receipts, a part of me began to doubt the value of it all. What if no one cared? What if she was right? That marketing was about narrative, not truth? That loyalty was louder than ethics? I stared at my reflection in the dark window and thought, what if I destroy her and they still don't want me back? I hadn't told Jamie or Nathan or anyone, but a small piece of me missed the work. The strategy. The thrill of a successful launch. I didn't want revenge for the sake of it. I wanted to reclaim something. My name. My voice. My seat at the table. But part of me worried I was building a case no one wanted to hear. That doubt didn't last long. The next day, Nathan messaged me in a panic. She used the wrong slide. The real Q4 numbers. In front of ops. I called him. What happened? It was a deck I uploaded but she forgot to double-check. She caught it mid-presentation, spun it like a placeholder, but I saw the director's face. He looked confused. Suspicious. It was the opening I didn't know I needed. A single slip in a web of control. One confused executive was enough to crack the illusion. Because once someone starts to question a story, they start looking backward. Jamie called me that night. I got a ping from a contact in legal. Someone who left 6 months ago. NDA so tight she won't talk specifics. But she said, and I quote, if you're going to expose her, make it airtight. Half a story won't bring her down. Then we give them the whole novel, I said. But we needed more than just a pile of evidence. We needed a moment. A platform. A reason to make noise when the right people were listening. Celia gave us that. She was a former board member, now advising a startup accelerator in Venice. We'd spoken once at a Lumiva retreat, nothing major, just a quick conversation over wine. But I remembered her as sharp and unflinching. I took a chance and reached out. Celia, it's Hannah Reid. I need 10 minutes of your time. It concerns Victoria Lake and the integrity of Lumiva's reporting. She called me the next morning. I remember you, she said. You asked the only good question at that Q2 retreat. What's going on? I told her. The spreadsheet. The threats. The fake metrics. The erasure. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said, you have a moment coming up. Annual shareholder review. If you time it right, that's your window. It's the only time executive reports are cross-checked independently. I hung up and sat at my table, surrounded by printouts and notes and color-coded tabs. My heart was racing, but not from fear. From clarity. This was the moment I'd been moving toward all along. The perfect storm. A room full of people who cared about two things, numbers and image. I stood up, looked around at everything I had gathered, and realized I wasn't tired anymore. I wasn't scared. I wasn't hiding. I was ready. Victoria had wanted me erased. She had made me invisible, irrelevant, silent. But I was still here. And she was about to hear my name again, louder than ever. Victoria toasted her new title with champagne, wearing a bright orange pantsuit that practically screamed confidence. The company had just made her Chief Growth Officer, a title she lobbied for, created out of thin air, then filled herself with her own recommendation. I watched the announcement on Lumiva's internal newsfeed using Nathan's login. There she was, smiling too wide, arm draped around the CEO like they were old friends instead of strategic allies. Her post read, "Grateful to lead Lumiva into its next chapter. This team is unstoppable." Comments flooded in. Fire emojis. Starry-eyed gifs. Congratulations from people who should have known better. Jamie messaged me 3 words, "She's peaking hard." And she was. This was her victory lap. She believed the illusion so deeply, she forgot someone else was keeping score. The shareholder review was in 3 days. I hadn't spoken directly to anyone inside the building since I left, but I had ears everywhere now. Lila had overheard her saying to another exec, "It's a done deal. They won't question numbers when we're winning." Nathan said she was practicing her deck like it was a TED Talk. Jamie heard a rumor that she planned to ask for more headcount during the review to scale momentum. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so gross. 3 days. That's how long I had to tighten every bolt. Jamie and I spent hours reformatting the files. Clean, annotated, dated. Each campaign had its own folder. Raw data. Final reports. Slack messages. Calendar logs showing edits made just hours before presentations. A running tally of inflated performance percentages. Some as high as 28% over the original numbers. One file compared her press statements to the actual engagement metrics. The contrast was embarrassing. Lies wrapped in brand jargon. Nathan helped us polish the story. He walked us through how changes were justified internally. He even gave us a spreadsheet Victoria had marked up herself, notes in the margins, with phrases like "soften this" and "can we round up?" "I think she honestly believes it's not lying," he said during one of our late-night calls. "She thinks she's curating. Like facts are optional if the story sounds better without them." I didn't laugh. It wasn't funny. When it was ready, I compressed everything into a password-protected drive and sent it to Celia with a single line, verified, timestamped, reviewed. "We'll submit formally at shareholder review." She replied within the hour, "Understood. I'll make sure it lands in the right hands. Don't flinch." The day of the review, I woke up before dawn. I didn't shower. Didn't eat. Just sat with a cup of black coffee, staring at the folder on my desktop titled, Q4 Truth. I couldn't attend the review in person. I had no right to be in the room. But I didn't need to be. Lila had a seat as a design lead and agreed to carry a flash drive in her purse as a backup. Jamie was logged in through a contractor account, audio only, ready to send the file if the internal one got lost. Nathan was watching from the analytics bullpen, eyes on the Slack feed, waiting for signals of confusion or disruption. At 10:05 a.m., the meeting began. Victoria started strong. Her voice was upbeat, pitch perfect. She spoke about growth, resilience, agility. The same buzzwords she always used. The board members nodded. A few smiled. She talked about elevating brand perception, increasing campaign conversion, winning mind share in saturated verticals. Then she clicked into the slides. And everything started to slow down. The first chart was fine. The second was questionable. The third was impossible. This slide seems inconsistent with last quarter's report, someone on the call said. The voice was clipped. Male. East Coast accent. Likely one of the newer board members. Victoria responded with the practiced ease of someone who had been improvising for years. We adjusted for delayed engagement, so Q3 numbers were rebalanced to reflect sustained visibility. Jamie texted me, "That's not a real sentence." 3 slides later, another board member asked a direct question. Why does the metadata on this campaign dashboard indicate modification 3 hours before submission? Who authorized the changes? That was the first time I imagined Victoria blinking. She probably didn't panic. Not at first. She would have blamed a junior analyst, probably hinted at time zone confusion, or phrased it as last-minute polishing. But more questions came. Someone else referenced an investor update that quoted engagement at 61%, but the current slide said 77%. Another asked to revisit the original dashboard from September. Then someone finally asked the question, are these numbers accurate? Have they been independently verified? There was a pause. Victoria inhaled. And then, as if triggered, she started to fight. These accusations are absurd, she said, her voice louder, sharper. This entire presentation was vetted by my team and submitted through proper channels. Any implication of misconduct is frankly insulting, and I will not be scapegoated for misinterpretations of evolving data. Jamie messaged, she's spiraling. The board didn't argue. They simply requested the backup files. Celia texted, now. Jamie hit send. Within seconds, the full folder landed in the inbox of every board member. The subject line read, Data Integrity Package, Q3-Q4 Discrepancies. Compiled by H. Reed. Inside were 32 files. 3 executive summary slides. Full comparison decks. Evidence trails. A timeline of manipulation. A cross-reference sheet naming every campaign she altered, every time she shifted attribution, every instance she removed another team member's name to claim sole credit. 10 minutes passed before anyone spoke again. Victoria tried again. This is a coordinated smear campaign from a disgruntled former employee. I find it deeply disturbing that confidential company files are being leaked and misrepresented. But it was over. One of the board members said, flatly, I see no smearing. I see discrepancies. Serious ones. Someone else asked, did you remove attribution from your colleagues' reports, Ms. Lake? Victoria didn't answer. Not for a long time. Lila messaged me, she looks like she can't breathe. Nathan sent a screenshot of the internal Slack thread, legal just joined the call. Then a message from finance, we're pausing all executive reporting until further notice. Jamie called me as soon as it ended. Her voice was trembling. They pulled her off the call, Hannah. They asked her to mute, and the CEO took over. Said a third-party audit would be conducted immediately. Said that accuracy and transparency were their highest values. I sat down on the kitchen floor, knees drawn to my chest, breath shallow. What happened next? Victoria tried to unmute again. And they locked her out. Just like that. It took less than 24 hours. The next day, Lumiva issued a formal statement, effective immediately. Victoria Lake has stepped down from her role as Chief Growth Officer to pursue other opportunities. We thank her for her service and wish her well. But that wasn't the part that went viral. Someone leaked the internal memo. An industry blog picked it up. Then a quote from the audit firm surfaced, data presented to shareholders was not consistent with raw performance metrics. Investigation ongoing. Another agency rescinded an invitation for her to speak at their leadership summit. A podcast pulled an episode she had recently recorded. Recruiters who once circled her LinkedIn profile now ghosted her entirely. Jamie messaged me, she's trying to say she was framed. But no one's buying it. Nathan sent a link to a post titled, "When Marketing Becomes Myth-Making, and the Price of Believing Your Own Hype." Lila forwarded a screenshot of the company Slack with a message, "Reed was right. She warned us. We didn't listen." This time I smiled. Not because I had ruined her, but because the truth had done exactly what it needed to do. Quietly. Completely. The next morning, I got a call from HR, different tone this time. Respectful. Curious. "Hannah, we'd love to talk to you about your future with Lamiva." I said I'd think about it. Then I got a message from Celia, "Whatever you do next, let it be yours. You've earned that." So I did think about it. Not just about returning, but about what I wanted. I didn't want my old title back. I didn't want to sit under someone else's approval again. What I wanted was space. Room to lead. Room to build something where facts didn't need embellishing and truth wasn't a liability. 1 week later, I declined Lamiva's offer. Politely. Firmly. Then I posted a short update to my LinkedIn, "Sometimes you don't need to burn a bridge. You just let them watch you build a better one." I started my own consulting firm 2 months later. Small at first. Just me and Jamie and a freelance designer. We took on clients who wanted results without the smoke and mirrors. Who understood that real growth doesn't need falsified metrics. Word spread. As for Victoria? Last I heard, she was taking time to realign. No one wanted to touch her brand. The podcast invites dried up. The speaking gigs disappeared. You can only lie your way up once. After that, people remember. And me? I'm not loud. I'm not flashy. But I still get calls from people inside Lamiva. Quiet messages that say, "Thank you." Or, "We see you." Or just, "Finally." Sometimes revenge isn't a big scene. It's not fireworks or screaming matches. Sometimes it's just the truth, spoken out loud, at the exact right moment. She said, "I will destroy you." But the only thing she destroyed was her own illusion. And me? I rebuilt something stronger than she ever saw coming.